Welcome to Rave Waves Eyes on the Book Show. We're starting to see hints of spring in many parts of the world. I'm glad for that. I am your host, Rox Berkey, broadcasting live from Dallas, Texas. Today's show is being sponsored by Ronald L. Powell, Missing in Action. If you would like to know how to get your own commercial to air during one of our shows, just visit the Rave Waves tab on the RRBC website for information. It's a fantastic way to promote your books. Join us today from Aurora, Colorado, which is getting snow, is the author of The Road to Seritin, a sci-fi dystopian, Charles Jones. Listeners, if you have any questions or comments for Charles, I'll be opening the floor up for those questions or comments throughout the show. Your mics will remain muted until that time. We ask that you please give us a little wave of your hand if you'd like to be recognized. At that time, you'll be asked to unmute your mic. You may also access the chat function located at the bottom of your screen to type in your question or comments to us. Thank you for joining us today, Charles. We're delighted to learn more about you and your book.
Thanks for having me. I haven't pulled one out of the box so I could show everyone a physical copy.
Nice. So Charles, before we start into the book, would you mind sharing just a little bit with us on what you did before you became a writer?
Oh, I went to art school and have never done anything with it except my book covers. Then I went to beauty school because I didn't know what I was going to do with art. And now I work for a really large company testing customer service apps.
Oh, nice. That's a fun thing to do, especially with your writing. So, but I almost consider you a full-time writer, or is it just a hobby for you?
It's like two part-time jobs, having a regular job over here and then writing over here. So it keeps me busy.
I hear you on that. And there's some comments coming in that we'll take a look at in a bit about your graphic design on your cover. Now, in your bio, when I did some of the research, it states that you grew up in a small town, Shoshone, in Wyoming. Tell us, how has that found its way into your stories?
There's a few books that are set there. The creepiness and the darkness always has a great influence, and it's really dark there at night because I think there's like 5 streetlights, and those are all along the highway. So everywhere else in town is super dark.
Wow, creepy. I get it.
Yeah. And the wind blows a lot.
Oh, so you got creepy noise and creepy sights. Nice.
Yes, exactly.
So when did you decide that you actually wanted to become a writer?
Well, when my father-in-law was dying, I needed some sort of outlet to take my mind off of things. So that's when I started writing The Second Plane, and I thought that was it. And then all these stories just started exploding out of my head. So now I'm on, I think, 14. Yeah, 14 is getting ready to be published. And it's been 12 years, I think. Yeah, 12 years since I started.
Wow. Well, I'm sorry for your loss, but the inspiration that it brought to you is a way to give back, it seems.
Yeah, exactly. Take your mind off it, read a book, write a book. It's always really fun to do. And when it's cold outside, don't turn on the TV, pick up a book.
Good advice. So, what is the best time of day now for you to write? Obviously, when it's really cold is probably a good time because you can sit by your little space heater, but
right? I usually write before I go to bed, or at lunchtime. Sometimes when I'm waiting on something to happen at work, I will take a few minutes and write something down really quick and then get back to it.
oh,
That
so
doesn't
are
happen.
you one to keep like a journal with you so you don't miss anything that you think about?
I'll put notes in my phone, do a quick voice note or something, so I don't have to try to remember what, oh, well. Well, that's how the Road to Seriton started too. It was like, was in a meeting and it was just like all these voices talking at once. It was before the meeting started and there was just tons of noise in this room. It was just echoing. And it was like, oh, I think I'm going to use that for something.
That's perfect because that was my next question is let's talk about the road to Seriton. So a little bit of background would start with this room where you started making notes, but how did you actually solidify the idea for this story?
I really didn't know where it was going when I started. I figured, oh, this will just be a fun short story and it, I'll publish it and do whatever and move along. But it turned into this epic journey of Carl traveling the wastelands to find his mom. So sometimes I always think it's, oh, that's not going to come to anything, and then it does.
Well, you're persistent, it would seem, so that's awesome.
Yeah. And it
Now,
actually changed a few times. Some of the characters I changed, like Astrid, for one, was not Astrid. Her name was Bonnie to start with. And then all of a sudden I have this town called Bonnieville. And I'm like, well, that's weird. So I'm going to change her name. And then the the original quest wasn't to find his mom. It was just to escape the Freedom Institute and what happens to him outside of it. Oh, sorry.
I love the cat.
I know it freaks out Nani, so I had to get rid of her.
Well, there is that. Nani, don't look at that. No, but is that part of your inspiration?
Um, my cats are in actually a few of my stories. They do appear. Like Sean appeared in Hydrangeas on the Lanai. He was my actual cat. That was a shapeshifter. So it's always fun to add them in here and there just to break it up from all the harshness that I write sometimes.
So the graphics on the cover of The Road to Seriton are very, very unique. And you mentioned that part of your original studies were, graphic art, but this cover is kind of complex. So how did you decide on this?
Well, I knew I wanted a gas mask, just because of what happens in the story, that everybody wears them. So I knew I needed that. This was a picture that I found on some stock photo site and I was like, oh, that one's kind of cool. So I had to add a bunch of filters and do other things with it to make it work out to what I like. And then the background um, is actually a picture of Chernobyl.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I thought it was fitting that the cities were destroyed, so have that in the background would be pretty cool.
Wow, that is really fascinating. So, the cover was commented on by several of the folks that are in the peanut gallery. Does anyone want to ask Charles a question related to the cover? Marbeth, if you would unmute, we'd love to hear you.
There we go. I would just like to see it again. It looks so interesting, and I didn't really catch that great a look at it. Can you hold it up again?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's great. Looks really nice.
And the detail is so,
Good job.
yeah,
Thanks.
the detail is exquisite. And, you know, Shirley comments that, you know, it really caught her attention. So I think that's obviously a mark of a good cover is you want to catch people's attention. You only have seconds to grab it. So well done.
Exactly.
Mhm. So how long did it take you from the time that you started hearing the voices in the conference room to actually release the book? And I know it was released, I think, in July of 2020, right?
Right. So I started writing it in February, all before the pandemic hit.
Mhm.
And then it was kind of ironic of what I was writing about was like, oh, am I having a premonition of what's happening in the world now? Everybody wearing face masks and hiding at home kind of thing. And it was just like, okay, that wasn't really what I was expecting to happen, but it did. So yeah, I started in February and finished it up and published in July.
So when you go through that quick of a writing cycle, do you have like, you know, multiple editors or beta readers that help you move the story along to its final ready for release state?
Yeah, I have a few beta readers, and then I use an editor that helps a lot, and also some software that actually finds things after the fact that I never really thought about. It makes pretty good suggestions.
Oh, good, good. I think that's certainly one way to do it. So, you know, with doing that, I mean, it's a fast ramp, and you know, prophetic in that it kind of, you know, entered our way into a very dark time in 2020, from my perspective. Um, have you leveraged that with some of the marketing on it or not?
I actually decided not to, um, just because I thought it was kind of tacky to target it that way. So I didn't. I didn't want to use the pandemic as a marketing tool. There was enough attached to it already. It didn't need my book being bogged down with it too. So yeah, I left that alone.
As a dystopian, and you really have done some fabulous world building, and I know we have several fans in the Peanut Gallery today that really like science fiction and dystopians like Carl. So is that your favorite genre? Because that's not all that you write in.
No, it's I'm usually horror. So writing in a dystopian sci-fi world was a change for me. And I really liked it. It's pretty fun. You know, I've watched all those weird 80s sci-fi movies like Space Hunter and America 3000 since I was a teenager. So it's like, why not? This would be fun for a change.
Okay, so is that something you're going to return to then from a genre perspective?
I don't know. Right now, I returned to horror with what I'm working on now. So this this might be a one and done. I don't know. I'll have to see in the future. I haven't really thought about it.
Well, I know that your world building overall, your character development are really imaginative and well executed in your horror story as well as in this one. So when you're actually writing and doing your, I guess, storyboard or however you structure it, do you have a strict process that you use to create these worlds and make sure that the characters apply?
Not really. Um, I'll work on the main characters primarily and make sure that they make sense. And then usually the world around them builds itself.
Okay.
It's really strange how it happens sometimes too, because it's like, how did that happen? But I don't really use storyboards or outlines. I did with this one. I took a class for creative writing, and it used a 13-step process for developing a story, and it was really, really cool. And as I was going through this class, I realized that I had already been doing it with Road to Seriton and didn't even realize it.
Well, that's fascinating. I've never heard of a 13-step writing process.
Yeah, it was really weird. It's like how you begin and then how you end it, and then all the little pieces in between are compartmentalized so that it all fits together. It was an interesting class.
So does someone in the audience have a question for Charles?
I do. Charles, would you mind detailing that 13-step process for us? Something
Hold on a second.
Okay, great.
Let me see if I have it right here.
The gallery might be really interested.
Good call, Nani.
Was it 13 steps? Or was it more than that? Yep, it is actually 15 steps, sorry. So you start with the opening image, and that's 1% of your story. Get down. And then you go into the setup, which is 1% to 10% of the story. And then you state your theme. So what is the main character looking to do, but doesn't know it, kind of thing. Then there's the catalyst, what causes the main character to go into action. The debate, which is 10 to 20% of the story, and it goes, it's like the internal struggle kind of thing. And then break into 2, which is how he gets to the next part of the story, which is the B story. And that would be a secondary character or a secondary setting. Then fun and games, which is 20 to 50%. And it describes how the main character is a fish out of water in his new surroundings. Bella, sorry.
No.
And like you look around and you see that this isn't what I'm used to. For like Carl, he was used to being in the Freedom Institute. Now he's in the world that he has never experienced because he's been there since he was 6. So he has no idea anything what to do. And then the midpoint is the upward path of getting to taking the climax up to where everything goes down.
Right.
And then the next part is called Bad Guys Close In. And then that's the downward spiral for the main character, of where he's getting caught up in the world and the badness of the world. And then the next one is called All Is Lost. So the main character is feeling sorry for himself. He can't do anything and blah, blah, blah. The next part is called Dark Night of the Soul. When he comes to grips with his new reality, who he is, what he can't do, what he can do, and what he's going to do. And that piece can be only like a chapter, a half of a chapter, and then he just wakes up and is like, oh, you can't tell me what to do. And then you break into 3. So it's the precursor to the finale. So what leads up to the explosive finale? And then the last section is the finale and final image. So you take a snapshot of what's life like now for the character.
Wow, I
So
think
yeah,
that,
it was a very interesting class.
no, it's an interesting process overall. Kind of keeps a author in between the guardrails. And I gotta say, Carl, he's excellent as a character. So, he does have a very interesting conundrum to get over, I guess, as for lack of a better thing. But is he patterned after anyone in particular?
No, just an everyday guy
Okay.
that's trying to make his way in the world.
I just didn't know if maybe you use people that you've come across to kind of map out different characters. He just is so distinctive.
The only person in that book that was modeled after anyone was Corporal Phelps.
Mhm.
And he was modeled after stories my uncle told me after he came back from Vietnam when I was a little kid,
Okay.
of how his sergeant was just a jerk.
Yeah, sergeants are supposed to be like that. I think it's part of their
Yeah, I think that's their job.
exactly. Exactly. So, the length of time that you've been a member of RRBC and in the family, have you enjoyed being a part of this group?
I have. It's a lot of fun. All the people are nice. Their reviews are honest, which I like. I don't need sugarcoating. If I want those, I'll pay for them, and I have.
Good for you.
So, but yeah, I've never had any problems with being in the club or anything. I really enjoy everybody. I try to read as many books as I can. And I still have a huge to read list of RRBC books. It grows every day.
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you.
It's like my Amazon books are just overflowing into my Kindle, and it's crazy.
So have you felt that you get a lot of really good support from RRBC? From one
Yeah,
author.
I think it's fair. If I share with somebody, I never expect anybody to share a review just because I reviewed them. That's not the point of this club anyway. But I'm always surprised when, like, some of the reviews that I've gotten for Road to Seriton is like, I've never read this type of book before, and it really got me out of my comfort zone. Was probably one of my favorite reviews I've ever received. But yeah,
Yeah.
everybody's always nice. When I get to join in, it's like sometimes it's like, oh, I really want to get on that one, but oh, I have a work meeting.
I have to agree with you. It is an interesting group. It is a way to read so many more things than I've read before. And I can say it gets me out of my comfort zone, like you just mentioned that someone commented, but I always see it as opening up a new comfort zone. If the writing's good.
Right, exactly. And
Yeah.
I've never read a romance novel before, and I read a few here,
Mhm.
and I was quite impressed. They weren't as gross as I figured they'd be.
Well, obviously you have a passion for your writing and you seem very committed to it with the number of books that you have. But what do you do when you're not writing, when you're not behind a typewriter? What do you have fun with, Charles? The real you.
I sew. I make clothes. I make shirts for myself and my husband. I've been struggling with putting zippers in pants, and I think I finally mastered that. It's really difficult. It looks like it should just be, oh, that's easy. No. Mm-mm.
Yes, I've been a
Um,
for many years. So why did you decide you wanted to sew?
oh, my mom taught me when I was 10 for 4-H. So it's something I've always known how to do. And it's like in the last year, it was like, oh, I need something else to do besides sit here and stare outside and wonder what if it's okay to go out. So I was like, I'm gonna start sewing again. And it's been fun.
That is good. Do you use a pattern or do you do it free form?
Use patterns.
Yeah.
I found a bunch of retro 80s patterns online. And so I'm bringing 80s shirts back.
There you go. A whole new avenue for you of creativity.
Exactly.
That is really impressive. Do we have anyone in the audience that wants to ask about this new idea from Charles? Lots of comments though, you know, we have
Yeah, I'm trying to catch them as they scroll through.
this and did some sewing and sure. Oh, Linnea, love to hear from you. Unmute, please. You muted.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm curious where you got the title for Saratan. Can you hear
I
me?
am too. I don't know. It was just like, it just popped into my head for the most part. It's just weird. It's like that happens a lot with me. It's like voices in my head telling me what to do. So they tell me what the places are called and stuff. Um, I really don't know how I came up with Seriton. It just happened.
Okay, it reminds me like a name of a gas or something. And I was actually gonna look it up on the internet if that was a type of gas or something. So so I
Well,
assume
there's sarin gas.
sarin gas. Okay, that's maybe what I'm associating with.
Maybe.
I love Carl's comment. He says it's your muse whispering to you. All right, so you sew and you're in a beautiful part of the country. Any advice that you'd like to give some of our authors?
Never stop. It just strive to get better every day. I take all the criticism that I get or feedback that I get, I guess I should say, it's not really criticism, to try to be a better author. So that's why this year I've started going through my older books just to make sure they're clean, because I have had comments of, yeah, that you had bad typos or there was some grammar errors or whatever, and I received feedback. And so I'm like, I think now that this is the year to clean those up.
Sounds like a worthy activity. Do we have any other questions for Charles from the audience?
I have a comment for Charles.
Thank
Charles,
you.
everything you said about RRBC in regards to you not expecting dishonest reviews of your books, you can always pay for those. You just can't pay for them here. And the fact that you left a comment on one of the posts recently where you mentioned you'd be cleaning up your books. That was amazing.
Yes.
And I'm so proud of you for doing that. I'm always excited to know that members get the concept of RRBC, especially when it comes to reviews. And I'm always happy when I hear you say it's not criticism, they're critiques of your work, and they always help you to grow. And that's what we're looking for. So thank you for welcoming those types of reviews. Everybody doesn't do it so well, so thank you.
Sometimes they're hard. Sometimes they're just
They're
mean.
always hard. They're always hard.
I have a 1-star on one of my books that is just mean. And
I think I have a 1-star on every one of my books because a member who's no longer in the club she went back and changed every review book she hadn't read. She was upset. So, it doesn't bother me. Their opinions.
yeah,
Their opinions. And sometimes they're mean, but sometimes they're honest. And I think when they're coming from certain areas, you can always expect that they're honest and they're not being mean. So thank you. I'm very
Right.
proud of you.
Nani, I'd
Thank
have to agree with
I
you.
actually finished doing one yesterday, so home has been revised and cleaned up, and it is on Amazon now.
I'm going to be picking Home up. Everybody pick up a copy of Home because he's had it redone, and let's support it. Thanks, Charles.
That is
Thank you.
awesome. A great approach because we always do learn and change. So unfortunately, we are just about out of time, but I can't thank you enough for joining us today, Charles, for Eyes on the Book. And I really appreciate you allowing us, or allowing me and the rest of us, to get to know you better. I like that you have some interesting activities that none of us were aware of, as well as sharing your unique story with us. Now it's time for us to take a small break and pay some bills. Nani? Shirley, thank you so much for sponsoring today. I loved that particular book. It was something that touched my heart. So to my studio audience, you make these shows extra special. So thank you for joining us here today. Remember, if you miss a live show, you can always find each and every episode in the archives of the RRBC website. This is your host, Rox Berkey, thanking you for joining us today on another episode of Eyes on the Book, a Rave Waves production. Please be sure to join us again soon for another episode of Rave Waves, where all things literary are our passion. We'll see you next time, but for now, stay home, stay safe, and keep your eyes on the book. I wish you all a happy spring.